And we are live. It's Whiskey, Watches, and Wheels. And guys, do you know what tonight is? Tonight
Wednesday.
is our 50th episode.
Wow,
50, baby.
We should have prepped for that.
I know, it's fine. That's the thing. It wouldn't be us. If we prepped for it, we wouldn't be like us. So, but yeah, 50 episodes tonight. Fellas, introduce yourselves.
Casey.
Okay, that's Kevin and Casey.
I'm James.
And that's James. There you go. And I'm Matt. So
50 times and we still can't
50
get it.
times. Hey, listen, I'll be 50 this year. So, yeah.
One more birthday to celebrate.
One more. It's a good birthday to celebrate. I embrace.
Is it on a Wednesday? I'm sure we'll have to cancel.
Fuck it. I don't know. It might be on a Wednesday. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
But with all the parties you attend, is anybody going to show up for yours?
Listen, don't frown on me, baby. I live a party life. Full of pizza and cake, but I live a party life. So you guys having a good week so far? No? Okay.
It's cold, man.
Fair enough. It's not 19 degrees like it was in Casey's neck of the woods, but for Kevin and I, it was freaking. What was it down there? You did it, Kevin?
43 this morning.
Yeah, it was like 40
something.
Yeah, it was like in the 40s here, and that's like
balmy.
freezing for us.
Yeah, it was when I left for work today. It was 32.
Yeah. No. I mean, it is what it is, but I'm ready for just a little bit of warmth. So tonight we got some topics that we're going to talk about, but we would be ill-pressed not to start off with some devastation, the LA fires. Man, we got to talk about it a little bit. I have some friends out there that live in LA. I was talking to my buddy just earlier in the week. Fortunately, he's good. He's right in like downtown LA, and his apartment's fine, and there's no issues there. But it's all over the news, guys. I mean, it's torn up some real shit. I mean, it's melting everything down.
It's devastating, and you see the pictures. Of course, what comes up on my Instagram feed, notwithstanding what we were speaking about earlier, but is all the cars that have been destroyed. Not to mention, there's been something like 77 deaths, so I don't want to belittle that. But
we're not discounting that. Certainly not at all.
Not at all. No.
But
not at all.
the car culture out there, as we know, is amazing. And the pictures that I've seen just from people's here you go, people's pride and joy, sitting in the garage and just gone is just unbelievable.
I can't. Being a Floridian, we're kind of used to hurricanes and stuff like that. Fortunately, I've never been in a position where we had to evacuate. I know Kevin's been close to having to evacuate, but I never have. But I can't imagine something like this. Like, I mean, they knew the winds. They can predict the winds, but you can't necessarily predict the fire.
I think this picture that you're showing here is what not to do.
Well, I included this because it was just a total douchebag. I mean, first of all, you don't put Christmas lights on a 911. Or is that even it has a 911
on any car?
No,
that's a Boxster.
Yeah, it's a Boxster.
Spider.
It's a Spider. Yeah, it's a Spider. But you put them on it. I mean, it's going to destroy the paint. Although it looks like it may be wrapped. But regardless, you don't do that, and then you don't go out on a photo shoot and park in front of a burning building. But that's just not what to do. But I mean, some of these photos straight up looks like Armageddon end of days stuff. It looks like they're filming for the next Armageddon movie.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's super unfortunate. And we can get into some other topics about these fires if we want to, but the cars, the homes that dealt with the devastation is unbelievable. I do think I don't know if you have any pictures of it, but you can certainly see some of the benefits of modern building and modern techniques. There's a couple of homes that they've showed on the news, and Instagram's getting a lot of run on it on the homes that were spared in a neighborhood that's completely burned down, which is pretty awesome because I'm kind of a building geek, researching a lot of this stuff. So hopefully I can build my own house one day. But as far as cars go, man, it's been a bitch.
Yeah. Well, they were talking about similar to a tornado, there wasn't a lot of rhyme or reason. Like, these things came through, and like you said, it would take out the McDonald's or the Gelson's or the Ralph's or the grocery store, and then leave a building in the middle, and then take out the next three buildings. It was insane.
Well, I think a lot of that had to do with the large embers that were blowing around. I don't think going back to Casey's point, you know, if you had built a house in the last few years, 6 months or whatever, and you did it to, what's it, AAA level or for fire protection, you know, at least had a fighting chance. But many of these homes, you know, obviously are surrounded by shrubbery, trees, and are made out of wood.
Well, and we all hear about California. We know that, you know, some very affluent people live there and things of that nature. And that's great. You know,
sorry, Matt, to step
go
on
ahead.
you here, but here's one on the beach here with modern architecture, no soffits, no intake, probably you know, a stucco siding, good margins around from the neighbors, and you can see it survives. I'll pull up the other one that I really like.
Was that residential home on the street?
Yeah.
I watched a whole video about that this morning on YouTube regarding all the improvements made on the home, including stucco siding.
Yeah. The Matt Reisinger video by chance?
Yes.
Yeah. He did a good job.
Oh gosh, we have the same Instagram feed and now the same YouTube feed. God help us.
Well, we're friends for a reason. So my point was that, you know, you don't want this to happen to anybody. I feel sorry for anybody who it happens to, but I really feel sorry for like the city of Altadena and Pasadena. You know, Altadena is gone. And those are not super affluent people. Those are blue collar, working class people, and they've lost everything. I mean, the entire like city is gone. So that's some pretty, it's, you know, akin to Chimney Rock, and where that just got wiped off the face of the earth. So my heart really goes out to those people because they're literally starting from scratch.
Well, and you know that you know how California is. I would venture to guess that a lot of these homes, here's this one that we're referring to here. I couldn't find a better picture of it. But anywho, a lot of these California homes won't be able to be rebuilt.
Not even close.
The red tape, the environmentalists, the wackos out in California, all those homes are not going to be able to be rebuilt. And that's what's really, you know, unfortunate for those families that live along the coastline, especially on the coastal side of that highway, is that they're not going to be allowed to be rebuilt. Those homes are forever gone. They are for now displaced, you know, to some other, you know, neighborhood or whatever. And you'd be lucky to see any homes built back on the coastline.
On a home that you're still paying a mortgage on and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
they're gonna still be built 100% on the coastline.
I disagree. And if they are rebuilt, it'll be a decade before they break
So, being from California,
I was waiting for you to chime in.
Yeah, there's. So I left in '94. My parents went back, I think, in 90 or 2000, and they came back in, I think, like, I don't know, 2010 or something like that. Wildfires it's a common thing that they're all the time. I really think that, and I've seen it, like, especially like back in the day when I lived there, it was the whole like mountain towns, like where we drive through, and you know, when we do our rallies, those get wiped out a lot. And I have a lot of my family now. Actually, my mom has 5 brothers and 5 sisters, so you can imagine all the cousins and stuff like that. They all live in Ventura, so now it's in Ventura, and we're trying to find out, like, hey, what's going on. But I've seen it. I've been like where I could see them on the hill. The wind definitely took effect, and but in my opinion, I mean, my parents left, and it's just, I think it could have been avoided. I really do. So it's kind of a shame that I sit there and I see, and now that I have my family, that's happening. Luckily, Ventura County is not the same as LA County, especially when I do see people that are like, hey, I just took my hose and sprayed along my house, and look, my house survived. So I will tell you.
But why do you think they're going to be allowed to build on the beach? I'm kind of in Casey's camp on this one.
Because when we had earthquakes, so we had the 1990 earthquake in San Francisco, tore down. We've had earthquakes in Laguna Beach, where houses have been torn down, and they built. The property value is worth so much money.
But with all due respect, the California has gone so much further to the left in the last, if you're talking the 90s, 25 years.
You know what's
35
funny?
years.
I don't hear, I'm still really close to California. I don't ever hear as much as, maybe because I live here, but in California, you don't hear, maybe because we don't have the ocean life that you don't hear, and James, you can attest to this. When we went to Monterey, there's seals shitting all over the place, and East Coast is more like wildlife. Like we want to protect the turtles and this and the dolphins. In California, we got kelp all over the place. The beach is disgusting to go to. The sand, you go to any of the beaches, there's trash in the sand. It's brown. It's not known for their beaches. So
because it's all natural. You got to leave it as
no,
it is.
because it's not. They don't clean it. Like there's trash on the beaches, and I do think that they were built on that. There's been fires in there in the 60s, and they built back up in it.
Well,
and
my
especially on
question
PCH.
is, my question is, if I own a piece of property there, and my house burns down, I own the property. I understand that they may not give me a permit to rebuild, but what? So you're just gonna fuck me? What am I supposed to do with the property? I have this piece of property that I own.
It's not going to be
the
imminent
government
domain.
is for.
Right.
So let me give you a scenario.
Yeah.
We went on June of this year, and we went from Laguna all the way up to Ventura. I wanted to take my family up to PCH. All of those houses that I remember, none of those houses that I remember are there. They're all been torn down for the most part, and on Malibu.
Sure.
And now they're just, I mean, what you see in the movies now, where it used to be bungalow homes, like the typical homes.
Well, I do think there might be something to what you said. If the foundation, if the foundation still exists and they can build on that same footprint, there's a lot of historic homes that have to be done that way here in Virginia, that you have to comply or stay within the natural or the historical footprint of the home. Maybe there's loopholes like that in California.
They don't have that in California. They let that shit like just whatever. Hey, we don't care. Like I was surprised. I was like, oh, what is that house? Man, I don't even remember, like, because I remember you drive from Sunset to Pepperdine, and I remember all those houses going there because I would go like almost every weekend to go see my family up in Ventura. And I'm like, oh, that's new. That house is new. This house is new. I was like, what the hell? Like all these houses are brand new. They definitely were built in Laguna Beach. There's literally houses that are like this with like a brace holding up a house. Yep. So if you and like Mulholland Drive, the houses fall all the time from earthquakes, and they build them right back up. Like I can't believe some of that they're hanging and they build them right in the same place. So in that house, literally the foundation, everything just goes down. So we have rock slides too. They will build.
I mean, I'll defer. You've got more experience out there than I do. I just don't. I just have a hard time imagining that.
I will say this, Casey. I do think a lot of people, especially if they get effed over because of an insurance company, I think a lot of those people are not going to build. They're not going to rebuild. I think somebody else will rebuild there, but I think they will move and go to Texas or go to Arizona or go to New Mexico. I think there's going to be a mass exit.
Yeah, but going back to Matt's point, I mean, I'm not really qualified to give an answer on this, but if you have a mortgage on this stuff and they're not going to allow you to build, or you don't have fire insurance, I mean, it's just going to be a massive bankruptcy for all these California residents.
Well, that's what I see happening. I mean, not that, but I don't know. The city wouldn't let them build. I can't speak one way or another because I simply don't know. What I do see though is that it's already happening here in Florida. Insurance companies keep pulling out and pulling out and pulling out, and so you might see a mass exodus of insurance companies come out of there, or they'll cut you a basic policy, but they're not going to cover fire.
And I don't think the people that we saw, like all the rich people that were complaining. Right. I think their houses were paid for. Yeah. Because here in Florida, you have to have hurricane insurance.
Yeah.
Or that you can't get a mortgage.
That's law. Okay, that's what I'm asking. Yeah, right. So that's law.
And this is, I think the people that they dropped them is
State Farm.
Yes, well, State Farm for sure. But I think the mortgage company says, oh, you have to have insurance. So I know they do have a government funded insurance just like we do. Mm-hmm. But you know how sometimes the news is, yes, they probably dropped a lot of people, and they probably had to go somewhere else.
Yeah, irony here is you got State Farm dropping all the fire insurance on all those folks, and then they wound up moving the Rams game to State Farm Stadium.
Yeah,
in Arizona.
Yeah. And we had that happen here. Remember, Matt? I mean, I think Geico dropped a lot of people. I got dropped from Geico for my house in St. Augustine. I had to go somewhere else because of hurricane. So you go to Citizens, you go somewhere else.
I didn't get dropped, but I had Allstate. Allstate pulled out. They sold their policies to Slide. So then I have,
that gives you confidence.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So I have Slide. But I mean, our homeowners insurance, I mean, it's nothing like what they have in California. But when I bought the house I'm in right now in 2017, my homeowners insurance was like, $2,300 a year. And last year it was close to $8,000. So it's escalated. It's gone 4 times. Like literally my insurance last year was $7,900. Now this year it actually rolled back, not because of we got a break. It's they've actually reduced some of the coverages. If you read the policies, something like that, but
less for more.
But it's still, I still paid $69.20 for this year.
I think insurance is a lot of times a scam. But on a slightly different note, we had 2 earthquakes yesterday, and I pay for earthquake insurance because Virginia's due for a big earthquake, if you look statistically. So I'm prepared. But our 3.0, my house is still standing.
Dude, so, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. When I think of earthquakes, I just don't think of Virginia. I didn't even realize you had earthquakes there. I had no clue.
Did it even make the news?
Yeah. It was. But it was the first one was like a 3.0 or something at like 5:30 in the afternoon. Then an aftershock happened at about 3:00 in the morning. Woke me up because it makes that rumbling noise. It woke me up. But we have them. I think we had another one last year that was around 3 or 3.2, something like that. So it's fairly frequent here, but we're due for a big one.
It obviously didn't shake hard enough because all your medals are still hanging on the wall back there. So
those are very well secured.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So anyway, we wanted to talk about the fires a little bit, just because it's topical, and, I know people out there. I know Kevin's got family out there, so it's horrible what they're going through. Not a whole lot we can do about it, but, hopefully they're able to get things fixed.
You can donate. That's for sure.
Sure you can. Yeah. Not just money. I mean, if you're fortunate enough to be able to donate monetarily, great, but there's injuries. You can donate plasma, donate blood, donate. I mean, there's multiple clothing. There's lots of ways to donate.
I think this is actually a good time to also remember that the floods over here on the East Coast are still ongoing. And, we have not sent a second care package down, but that is something that's still ongoing. And, a lot of those people are still without house, home.
That's jobs. What I'm interested in seeing is how long it takes. If there's been no movement in North Carolina, how long is it going to take in California? Let's see what happens here.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to get all political on this because I'm not smart enough to be all political, but it was in the news, and there was a lot of people uproar about
$700,
$750 given out to the guys over in North Carolina, and then they come on the news and said that. Now, I don't know when they say, we're going to invest 100%. I don't know what that means or what kind of handouts they're getting in California. But if it's more than $750, there's going to be a lot of people in North Carolina that are not happy.
They gave them $700 today. Okay. California just gave them $700 today. Okay. Biden just announced that today.
Well, and again, this isn't political, and
not at all.
I could get very
we're just stating the facts.
Well, that's a tank of gas in California. I hate to say it.
That's right. But oftentimes the South is considered flyover country, and the South is shit upon a lot, even though we as car people really enjoy the North Georgia mountains, the North Carolina mountains, Tennessee mountains. A lot of times this part of the country is forgotten about, and I don't think that it should be put on the back burner. And so if anybody, again, out there listening, don't forget about that want to donate. Don't forget about our North Carolina, Tennessee, and our folks that have struggled out this way as well.
Not at all. Well, shifting gears, literally, one of the topics we wanted to talk about tonight was I was going through the main topic, and I was going through an article the other day, and actually I want to give credit where credit due. Where was this article that I actually read on
Drive?
No, the Autopian had an article that there for 2025 model year, there's only 27 cars that are left with manual transmissions
in America.
in America. Yeah, everything else is going to be CVT automatic, dual clutch, whatever. But
my first question is, out of how many cars available?
Well, when I say cars, I'm talking about vehicles. There's only 27 vehicles.
Like models.
Yeah, like model. Matter of fact, there's only one. Believe it or not, there's only one. I have it on the list. There's only one truck.
Yeah,
Tacoma
left in the United States. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one truck in the entire United States left with a manual transmission, and it's the Toyota Tacoma.
Well, that's all I had to contribute to this, so I'll just close that tab.
No, that's fine.
Which is wild, because I think the Bronco, didn't it originally come with an option for a manual?
It might have. I don't know. I mean, I will tell you that I'm not a massive Bronco fan, except for one reason. I would not buy a Jeep Wrangler because of the fucking ducks. So if I'm going to I want to get a Bronco, and I want to put a sticker on the back that says "fuck your ducks."
So can you run through the cars?
I can.
Quick?
Yes.
Okay.
So not in alphabetical order, just the way I wrote them down. Under the Nissan moniker, you basically have their economy car, the Nissan Versa. That's going to be the only one left. Actually, take the back.
Shit box.
Take that back. There's two: Nissan Versa and the Nissan Z. The Z car will still be offered a manual. That's it.
Because they're not doing the Skyline anymore or the GTR.
No,
right?
So
okay.
and it was the GTR was always dual clutch, so it was never a manual anyway. So it was the R35 was. The Ford Mustang is still available.
Shit box.
Yep. Cadillac still offers the CT4V Blackwing and the CT5V Blackwing. Both of those will be offered with a manual transmission.
Has anyone ever seen one?
Yes.
I have. Yeah, I've seen a few
cars and bids.
Yeah. I haven't seen the CT4V. I've seen the CT5V. So the Integra A-Spec as well as the Type S will both be offered with a manual.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Honda, similar, which makes sense. The Civic Si and the Type R, which are basically the Honda sisters to the Integra, both of those will be offered with a manual.
So can you stop? When you're giving, I'm counting, that's 8. When you're counting cars, that's part of the 25 because those are two different models. Like,
So,
or is that
25.
one car?
No, that's part of it.
They can't, in this article, this guy counted that as the same one.
Oh, he did.
Yes.
Well, I counted. I literally counted like 1, 2.
So they discussed that in the article at the bottom. He's like, yeah, the Type R and the SI I counted as 1, but the Cayman and Boxster he counted as 2.
And how about the Cadillac? 2 different cars.
2 different cars.
Yeah, 2 different cars.
So I don't know. He says at the end, like, my methodology doesn't have to be yours, whatever. But
Right.
At any rate, the Honda Type R, Type S was counted as 1.
Yeah,
so
he was just saying clickbait is clickbait. Let's get it going.
It's on our thumbnail too. So hey, 25.
So well, and again, it's really like I have them all written down, and I only count 28 total. So
okay,
but anyway, so next is gonna be Mazda, the Mazda 3, and then the Miata.
Of course,
obviously both those will be offered manual.
Yep.
Mazda 3 is supposed to be a hot hatch.
This one I find very odd. So Volkswagen discontinued the manual in the GTI.
Mm-hmm.
But left it in the Jetta GLI, which I
so
find
weird.
odd.
Yeah.
I mean, you would
Because
think
of
a
performance.
sedan, if anything, you would think a sedan would be more of the automatic and the hot hatch would keep the manual, but I don't know. Who knows?
I would guess that they're trying to force manual buyers into a more expensive model. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly.
Or is there any kind of Euro influence?
Exactly, crossover.
Could be.
That's what I'm thinking.
It could be. And who knows, the Jetta GLI, maybe they kept it in that the GLI because they make a manual in the Jetta because it's a kind of economy car overseas and everything. So who knows?
And that Jetta, that GLA may come from Germany. You know, remember
possible.
back in the day when, oh, you want this car? Oh, that one's all 100% German. So go ahead.
Could be. The Subaru BRZ as well as the WRX will both still be offered with a manual.
Mm-hmm.
The Hyundai Elantra N. So, which makes sense. I know, but it's their hot hatch. So, which makes sense. It's there to compete against the other little things. Porsche,
box.
Yeah, the 911, the 718 Cayman, and Boxster. All 3 of those models will be offered with a manual. Not maybe every trim, but you'll be able to get a 911 with a manual. The Lotus Emira, BMW's coming in strong, man. A BMW
M2, right?
Yeah, the M2, the M3,
2, 3, 4, 5.
the M4.
But the
Z4?
M2 is the only one without that fucked up grill.
Well, it's true. Beaver teeth. And then the Toyota, again, coming in strong. The GR Corolla, the GR 86, the Supra, as well as the Tacoma is all offered with manuals. And
I mean, the Supra is going away pretty soon.
well, so Toyota said no.
Oh,
What's happening is, here's what's happening. BMW is discontinuing the Z4. So the Z4 is no longer going to be made. And that's, of course, who is manufacturing the Supra for Toyota.
Mhm.
So Toyota has said that the Supra is not going to go away, but they are either going to have to find another platform sharing person, or they're going to have to design it and build it themselves.
So it's going away.
It maybe initially, or they could partner with Subaru. I mean, that's what they already partnered with Subaru on the 86 and the BRZ. So
what about a 6JZ? I don't know what
Well,
version
again,
we're
Toyota
on.
just announced today. Toyota's got a brand new engine coming out, turbo 4-cylinder, an in-house motor, one they actually build themselves. Not like the current one they have in the GT86 is a Subaru unit, but it's going to push 400 horsepower out of a 4-cylinder turbo.
Yeah,
So,
would you want a Subaru at this point? There's been so many issues with their motors. No,
not going to lie to you, man. I had the Scion FRS, which was what the GT86 is right now. I put 100,000 miles on it, had no problems at all.
Mhm.
100,000 miles is just breaking an engine in these days.
That's
in my opinion.
Yeah. So I had no issues with it whatsoever. So, yes, they have, if on the turbo models, they have head gasket issues in the old EJ motors, but the current ones don't seem to have a lot of issues.
Why is it? This is such a fucking off track, but
Yeah.
why are we still
again?
I don't know if
Jerry Seinfeld right there.
why do we still have head gasket issues? For fuck's sake!
I don't.
Head gaskets are not a difficult or hard thing to manufacture.
No, I mean, in the WRX, that head gasket issues for two things. Actually, it's primarily the STIs because people aren't good. 380 horsepower, whatever it is, isn't good enough. So they want to, change the turbo, crank the boost, and now they're trying to push off, freaking 600 horsepower of a stock block, and it can't handle the pressure.
But what is the difference in the head gasket on my old 90-something Chevy V8 in my boat, which I put in as an aftermarket fucking head gasket, and the head gasket in my Cayenne Turbo?
Because you're not putting boost. That's why.
I'm putting a shitload of boost in the to the Cayenne. What is the deal? If it's just the fucking pressure, which I can't imagine that's all it is, because you just fucking enforce that area a little bit and crank the bolt down a bit more. I don't understand why head gaskets are such an issue.
I don't know, but they seem to be an issue in a lot of models.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. That's why I'm asking the question.
Unless you're Ford, and like in the the RS, they put in the wrong head gasket.
Well,
if you put the incorrect head gasket, you'll have issues. So.
Well, I guess perhaps cylinder size is pushing the space between cylinders too small. I can see that blowing out because that becomes 2 millimeters in separation, and
tolerance.
Too thin there. But if you have a freshly designed engine like they did for these cars, there's no reason to have make it a millimeter longer or wider,
or maybe bolt tolerance. Maybe the bolts break down or something, or causes a gap. I don't.
Well, that's
I don't know.
really shitty design. I wish I was smart enough or knew an engineer that was on that side of things to be able to talk through that, because it doesn't make sense when you have a fresh engine that a head gasket is your fail point. We've seen it in BMW. We've seen it in old Chevy V8s. Why is head gasket such a common failure historically?
Well, we know Casey will not sleep tonight until he gets his answer.
He's going to be on the search.
Just ask him the question.
So, I mean, my question is on, with all these models being left as manuals and the lack thereof, do you think it's going to hurt the industry or all? I mean, I don't know that it'll even hurt it or bother it.
Here's my question: out of that list that you just mentioned, what cars do you even care about besides the Porsches? What car would you actually consider? Maybe the Tacoma. Right?
So,
the other thing is okay, we're all older generation, so you got to look at your demographics. How many people know how to drive?
Right.
A manual car.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're not wrong.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I have tough enough times getting somebody to show up at work by 10 a.m., much less drive a stick.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the people that, hey, I love driving a manual too, but I'll be honest with you. I do like driving my Porsche with a PDK. It's faster if you're talking about performance, the traffic. You get into that car as like we all drive our manual cars because it's something fun. I would not drive if I lived in the city, or I wouldn't even drive that. I wouldn't drive that. Yeah,
I get that. I would. I mean, I did. I mean, until my company went through and started giving us company vehicles, and of course, I don't have the option for a manual. Like my FRS was my daily driver for 6 years, and like I said, I drove it every day, bumper to bumper traffic. It was a manual. I'm just that weird.
How many years ago was this?
Just recently. I mean, I just sold. I got it when I got the 911. So I mean, we're talking 5 years ago. So
yeah, I mean,
I bought it new in 2012. And then dailied it from 2012 all the way up until 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 2017 is when I got my first Ram through my company. So I dailied it through 2017. But if I hadn't I would have sold it and got another daily driver with a manual and kept dailying that.
You're just a better guy than us. I
just enjoy it. I like a manual transmission. I'm just there. There's no explanation behind it. I'm weird that way.
I like them too. I just don't like traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was part of the reason that I had come across as far as the decline goes is, the limited selection.
Right.
And then how many people even know how to drive the damn thing?
Yeah. The one that bothers me is the GTI, because I've said this 1,000 times. I still believe it to this day. If my company went through and said, hey, we're changing our program again and we're going to get rid of the fleet vehicles, we're going to give you a car allowance, I'd go out tomorrow and buy a GTI as my daily driver. I truly believe it's the do-all car. It's big enough to carry stuff around, but small enough that it's good in traffic. And if I was buying one, I would have gotten one with a manual. I wouldn't now because they don't make it, But
well, now you got to move over to the Honda if you're going to go that round.
Yeah, that
way. As far as the daily do it all,
and
the hot hatch thing.
Being the only one of the group that actually puts real mileage on their cars, I have to agree honestly with the automatic. As much as I enjoy even putting long distance on the Porsches and shifting every gear, I love it. But dude, when it's 5 o'clock in the morning and I've got a cup of coffee and I'm half asleep,
I get it. Yeah.
Plus, they're just better. I mean, the automatic transmission has come so far.
And I will say that, like us growing up, with the distractions, I know we didn't have cell phones growing up and stuff, but you can't really drive a stick shift. Being on your phone, playing on the computer, it's just not like, hey, I would have loved Savannah to drive her first car as a stick shift and probably like a 2-seater truck, because you have to pay attention or you're getting in an accident. I would love to see what the difference is in Europe. Because I have vans that are still...
it's still manual.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is almost like driving a stick is equivalent to listening to albums as opposed to streaming. Right? It's an effort, right? The reason I do it is you feel engaged. You can, the cars that I have that are manual, I can feel every bump in the road, every divot, everything about it. I'm getting feedback. Where today, I drive and people in these SUVs, they come around a 45 mile an hour curve and they tap their brakes because there's no feedback for them at all. And they feel that their car is going to flip over. But
I do think that that's part of it, James, is that we enjoy the engagement and we want to have that feeling of being connected. And if you look at the list of the cars, the vast majority of them are, connected type vehicles, even if we don't like particular ones or their shit boxes. But they heavily are trending towards just, what is the right word? Performance cars for sure, but niche market cars, right? The Jeep Gladiator dropped out. It was in the article. It said that the Wrangler doesn't even come with one now. So these are very niche market cars, cars that people want to feel connected. And you look at even the Tacoma and think of like your average Tacoma person. It's probably like one of us, the vast majority of them. And we're the ones that would want a manual in a Tacoma. If you've got, Joe Blow down the street that's literally using it to just go back and forth to work, he's getting an automatic. But if you wanted to try to maybe do light off-roading or overlanding, or you still, you had
live in the mountains with the
live in
weather.
the mountains, or had a sports car when you were younger, and this is the only connection you have back is a manual transmission, that's the person that's going to get a manual Tacoma. But otherwise, all these are econo cars or sports cars.
And I also think too that I think it's cost, and this is just me assuming, it's probably cost the same amount of money to make a manual and an automatic transmission, but it was always discounted, even from the 90s. If you got a manual, you got a disc, it was a discount when there was lots of them out there.
It's the opposite now.
Right.
You're going to pay a premium.
Yeah. And it's cheaper to fix.
And by the way, Kevin, we don't need facts or research here. We're just shooting the shit.
Facts are optional.
Just make them up.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
so
facts.
It's cheaper to make a.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is nowadays, if you want a car that even comes in a manual, oftentimes it's the option. Like you have to option it back into the car. Like they make it as an automatic, and you want the manual, you have to option it back in.
Special order. They're not going to have it on the showroom neither.
Right.
Well,
unless it's one of those, unless it's a Type R or something.
Yeah. If you were to remove, the Porsches from that list, I think I would go after that M2 and a Tacoma, and you'd have a pretty well-rounded little garage there to get shit done.
I agree with that.
So one thing on the same topic,
I would go Type R because it's fast around the Nürburgring.
Well, no, I've been car shopping, not like nothing fun, but Stacy's car is a 2019, and so we'll probably end up getting her a new car maybe next year.
To have 60,000 miles on it?
Not even. It's got like 52,000. She only drives like 10 miles a day.
Give it to Casey.
I'll put some miles on it.
So we were talking about maybe getting her a new car next year, not this year. So I was kind of like, what do you want? And of course,
Daddy needs a new car.
She's not into flashy, fancy stuff and everything. So I was looking at like Lexus ESs or whatever, and then the new Camrys are fucking badass. She's got a Hyundai Sonata now, but I was really surprised at how many manufacturers are going to CVTs. They're not even, and unless they've come a long way in technology, because they used to be garbage, I don't get it, but everyone seems to be going to CVTs.
I haven't driven one in years. The last one I had was probably 2009-ish, 10-ish, and it was, a rental car. I fucking hated it.
Right.
It was awful.
They were horrible. So,
why don't you guys like them? Because I've gotten tickets driving CVTs because you don't feel the shift points. So I never knew how fast I was going.
For me, it was
mine was the shitty one, which was the Ultima, wife's company car.
Correct. Exactly. And that's what I drove was an Ultima. And for me, it,
sounded like a scooter. It felt like a scooter.
When you're cruising along, it was like a constant droning. It was like, because there was no gears. I just didn't dig it. I don't know.
There's her thumbnail.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Obviously for Toyota, the Mecca
that's
they
one
are.
More one more reason why you get no feedback any longer, right?
Well, I was looking. I haven't shopped for anything in a while, but 2025 is a brand new model year of Camry, fully redesigned. Only comes as a hybrid, only comes as a CVT, but it's getting great reviews. It actually has really good handling, they say, for a front wheel drive car. I don't know. I have to drive one, but it's getting like 50 miles to the gallon. So I don't know, but compared to the Lexus, technology wise, the interior, they're almost identical. The ES versus the current Camry, they're on the same chassis. But the Lexus, you still get a V6 and a true 8-speed automatic, whereas the Camry you're getting a hybrid. And
so, are you considering only new cars, or are you looking for gently used?
Me personally, I have no problem with gently used. My wife has always been one of the ones that she feels that if she's not getting a brand new one, it's a scratch and dent. I don't have that same philosophy. For myself, I would never buy brand new, but for her, I don't mind doing it because we typically hold it many, many years and pay it off and just drive it. So it's not a big deal for us.
Except this one that you're replacing.
Well, no, we bought it in 2018 and it's 2025. So, it's,
5 years old, 6 years old.
7 years.
It's
7
not
years.
even broken in yet.
7 years. And it'll be 8 years by the time we get rid of it.
Whatever.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Well, listen, I ain't gonna lie to you. Hyundai's been in the news lately for a bunch of engine failures, so I want to off this bitch before it something blows up. Just saying.
That's all you needed to say at the top of that story.
When I bought the car, and don't get me wrong, it seems to be all the newer, the older generation models that having issues. But I'm looking at a driveway of 3 Hyundais. I'm like, great, the last thing I need is every one of them bitches to blow up. So
your children can pay for their own car.
Oh, they can, and they will.
Grown-ass
but
adults.
My daughter's a 2019, my wife's a 2019, my son's a 2017. It seems like all the issues they were having were like 2012. So I'm not too concerned about it, but at the same time,
let's shopping. Not, don't kid yourself. This is a massive platform, so you can just shout out Hyundai and be like, "Hey, fix my engine."
Well, and Stacy might decide. I'm leaving it up to her. She's always been one that likes sedans. That's fine with me. I don't care. I told her, I said, listen, it's just you now. I mean, we have, we take my truck anywhere, we go anywhere together. So I said, if you want to freaking get a 2-door convertible or whatever, I'll get you whatever the fuck you want.
I hear that she likes Boxsters.
Yeah, she does.
Spiders.
If she wants to get one, I'll get her one. I don't care.
You heard it here first.
Coming soon.
I'll get her whatever she wants. What she wants, I'm not going to get her what she wants because she wants the damn Aston Martin, and I'm not buying that.
Well,
why?
What?
DB7s are
yes, but to get one that I can afford for 50 or 60 grand, you're going to get one that is older, like 2010, and it would be her daily driver.
I think it's fine.
Yeah,
I think it's fine. You gotta get these paws ready, get them greasy.
Yeah,
start learning to work on some stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm not Casey. I'm not doing that shit. I pay somebody to do that stuff.
Well, I hope you're not going to sell a couple Rolexes to finance that purchase anytime soon.
No, I'm not.
Because you ain't going to get it back. That's for damn sure.
Well, yeah. James, you started off. Tell us about it. I hear that the market's sliding. It's declining.
Well, yeah, I've read a bunch about it, but if you look around, sliding appears to be anywhere between 5% and 8%.
That's not decline. That's the market readjustment.
It makes for good clickbait and good stories and such, but if you poke around, everything that I can find, at least it runs from the 4% to 7%. I reached out to Josh today. Josh was on our podcast a while ago when we were talking about watches, and he's saying that he's seeing a 10% decline over the last few months, but he said there's still stuff that's holding strong.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can just throw in the towel and say everything's dropping on the Rolex side and the bottom's falling out, but I see it more on the Bourbon side than I do on the Rolex side.
Well, I think what I've witnessed on the Rolex side, I won't say watches in general because I can tell you a story about a different watch that is not dropping. But in the Rolex side in general, prices are definitely turning around. You look at, I think I said last week that I really like the Sea Dweller, and I'd like to add that one day. Rolex just increased their prices, 10 or 14%. So Sea Dweller new now is $14K. You can find them all day long, used, brand new, all the papers, blah, 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 for $9 grand. So they're under market value substantially. GMTs, which is what most people tend to care about in the Rolex market, they're still holding pretty strong. Although I think your second picture here, James, is the GMT price, and it's like 5% or something. I think that's a little insignificant over the last couple that's like a year long. But you look back to 2020 COVID era, it's dropped substantially since then, right? We were seeing GMTs in the $40,000 range, which is crazy, wild. But Submariners are now under 10K, all papers, date, no date, et cetera. You can get good unworn or really look unworn watches for under 10K now. And that I think is a significant change over the last couple of years where that was just not possible.
But going back to the Magic 2020 year, if you looked across the board, everything had peaked as far as, cars, bourbon, watches, anything that we had a lot more money to spend. We were sitting in the house. We were getting checks coming in. Well, some people were getting checks coming in, but I think that's what drove it all. So
100%.
when you say it's collapsed, you got to look at a 5-year time period as opposed to a year period.
But I think that that's part of the problem when we look at, you get a lot of clickbait and articles about how prices are dropping. When the prices jump up so much and it becomes a story that you can't find a GMT for under 40 grand, that brings more people into the market, right? Because it becomes automatically an unobtainium and people are attracted to that. And so
Investment.
I think correct, that as well. But you get younger people who maybe, I didn't want to watch before I had an Apple Watch, but now all of a sudden they're getting checks. They're looking at other things. Oh, I see Rolexes all over Instagram. Let me look into that. It's a $40,000 watch, so everything gets inflated yet more. But what it does is that all those people that it brought in, their horizon is only when they stepped into the market, which was 2020, 2021, 2020.
Smoked.
Right.
And they're smoked because it was, 40 grand, 35 grand, $32,000. And now we're sitting down here where you can find them for 17, 15, whatever it is now. And that seems like a total collapse to them, when in reality, that's still above where it should be, but it's a significant drop from where
Well,
they
it's just it was inflated anyways. I mean, it's all inflated. I think the economy is really just from my side of things. Like my business is down 50%. I talk to other people, not even in my sector, they're down 30, 40, 50%. And it's not just automotive. So it's going, I mean, if we're talking luxury goods, we're talking retail, we're talking, I mean, it's everywhere, tile and flooring. So, 50% down, people don't have the money. So therefore it's all your basic economy of supply and demand, right? So I think that if people don't have the money, then therefore the supply goes up and the demand goes down. So,
well, I think everything has turned into a speculative economy. At one point, people bought records to listen to them. Now you buy them to not open them, to just hopefully that they go up. I'm just using that as an example, but it's across the board. How many people are buying cases of bourbon and just letting them sit without drinking them?
I think I think that was a thing over the last several years. And now you're seeing, again, those secondary market prices drop through the floor. You're also seeing these NDPs, non-distilling producers, right? So they don't actually produce their own bourbon. They're buying barrels and aging it, or buying aged barrels and then just bottling it. But you're seeing these bottles come onto the market now that have these elevated age statements that over the last 4 or 5 years we haven't been able to get, right? They've been unobtainiums, where if you wanted say an Elijah Craig at 9 or 10 years, you couldn't find it except if you had you went and bought a whole barrel. And now you're seeing like Sealbox doing a 15-year Wild Turkey. They put out a couple of them now. You're seeing some of these aged barrels now hit the market that we haven't seen in a long time. And the prices, while still quite high, are not near the levels that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years.
I think they got to get rid of that. I think
Correct.
Even they're like, oh crap, hey, I need it. This has been sitting here, and then me time to get rid of it. I mean, I've been even doing some of it on some things that's like, you know what, just get rid of it because it ain't making me any money sitting here on the shelf.
Well, and remember, bourbon is not like Irish whiskey where it can continue to just sit in the barrel for years on end. It has a peak, and it will over oak. It becomes not good. And you can look at, Old Pappy and some of the other ones that do ultra aged, bourbons, which to me are over oaked when you get into that 15, 18, 20 year range. The peak of bourbon on average is in that 7 to 10, maybe 12, but for me 12's pushing, where it really starts to get over oaked and it gets that bitter tannic flavors. And people, the overall market does not like that, except when they see it in a Pappy bottle. The market doesn't like it overall, and you're going to see prices plummet. So there's only one thing to do, is you've got to bottle it and sell it.
Yeah.
and have somebody drink
So
it.
let me ask you this question, Casey. How about people that buy a 15-year or the perfect year, say, in your case, 15-year, and they keep it because it says the year is produced? Because I know like wine goes bad from sitting.
Yeah. So if it's bottled on your shelf, and as long as it's kept at a mild temperature, and some would argue in the dark, not direct sunshine, it's not going to age anymore in the bottle.
Right.
It's not wine. So it can stay delicious for eternity.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that they buy it now because even though it's a 15-year bourbon, but technically, and I know it hasn't aged, but you kept that bottle for another 15 years, so it's 30 years. So having that year bottle, and for you and I, we know that it's going to taste the same as it did 15 years ago, but because you can't get that, I
Like
didn't
wine?
even. Well, and you know what though? Not all wines. I went down this whole rabbit hole because I have a 1976 Merlot that Ron gave me for my when I went up to Slovenia because it's my birthday year. Apparently, not all wines, they all go bad. Like after like 10 years, unless it's like a super red wine, but like all these other wines that these blend Shirazes and stuff like that, they go bad after like 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah,
I
not
thought
all.
it was like, I thought it was like, oh, you have this wine, and my wine that I have is a Merlot, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try this, but I bet it tastes like vinegar.
Yeah, not all red wine is meant to age.
Right.
But bourbon is, if it's bottled, there isn't really yet vintages in bourbon, meaning
What's considered a vintage?
so say the corn that was produced in 2014 produced these bottles of bourbon and they're exceptionally good. We have, because bourbon is the production of bourbon is not as mature.
It's not as controlled too, right? Correct. As far as wine,
Correct.
Like you're making the correlation between wine here.
Correct. And so bourbon is trying to move, from what I've heard and read, trying to move more towards a wine type production, meaning the vintages are controlled or more understood by the market, but nobody in the market knows where the corn comes from. You have a producer like Blue Run that does all like in-house. They produce their own corn and they kind of track it through the process. They're like, as far as off the top of my head, they're the only people that kind of do that. And until the market understands that this strain of corn tends to produce this sort of flavor profile,
be careful what you ask for.
Correct. And so you're just complicating the market, in my opinion.
In the end, sorry, go ahead.
And making it more likely expensive. And so to answer your question, Kevin, there isn't vintages yet, at least from what I know, of saying like this year of product is better. We do know that when you have a product like, again, Old Pappy or some of these single year production items, like say the 1924 that I'm trying to find, we do know that certain years of the product can be.
I have a case of that, by the way. I have a case of that, Casey, because I'm spec trading on it.
Isn't that? But don't they, like, from what I understand, like, they keep the barrels in this part of the storehouse, and it gets more of the oak flavor. They don't. Yeah. So they don't do that like wine, like, or
very, very few of the distillers will put out specifically what bourbons, what labels come from what warehouse in what location.
I'm just saying when they taste it.
But why would you? Because right now, everyone will drink anything.
Well,
if you start limiting and segmenting, then all of a sudden people are going to be like, I am not buying that.
You have certain, like E.H. Taylor did the Tornado Warehouse. They did Warehouse H or some other warehouse. And those bottles have become extremely high value because, Fred Minnick and the like have said it's a fantastic value or, a fantastic bottle. But if you go by Maker's Mark 46 or, whatever, these massive blends of bourbon that they have, 40 warehouses, they've got to blend all that and they're going by pallet, right? They're blending it for taste. Very few of these producers have the ability to produce in any sort of volume, to be able to pick and choose certain warehouses and say, this warehouse is only Elmer T. Lee. Or
So
this,
they're not doing barrel picks like at
you
these
can
big
do a
places?
barrel pick. You can do a barrel pick, but that's separate. Those aren't mass marketed products. That's got to be
But
like
couldn't
a club.
couldn't the distiller go to the back of the warehouse? And again, I'm just asking for educational purposes. And he goes to the back and says, I think, because that's what the distiller does, I think this one's been sitting here for this much, and we had this season and this, and he knows the humidity, and he knows all the stuff, and he picks that one, and then he picks this one, they're all in the same area, 3 barrels, and makes like wine, because that's how wine says, hey, that year that grape had thin or heavy or whatever.
That's how you get E.H. Taylor. That's how you get the 15-year, whatever. Those products are not like 1,000 different barrels. They may be the honey barrel from a specific warehouse in a specific location, but you don't know that necessarily. They don't put out.
So why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they saying, hey, to James?
There are some that are starting to do that, or make the information. They'll kind of float it out there to people and let it.
Because isn't it all marketing anyways? They got to tell that shit and be like, oh, this is the best one, to get some 100%. People that say it's the greatest. And most people don't have the palate to tell anyways.
So they're floating that out there, but they can't do it directly because, as you said, people will just discount the rest of their shit and not buy it. They'll just search for, whatever.
Why would they discount it if the other places look at it like a Dom Perignon of champagne?
I don't mean discount it. I mean, the buyer won't
additional
look
options.
at it. It'll make their regular Maker's Mark or, Buffalo Trace drop in perceived value as compared to the other stuff. Like
even if you're making it in a limited run, you're making it at,
it's all limited enough.
Let's say 5,000 bottles, opposed to, whatever they produce.
I have a Buffalo Trace barrel pick.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah.
All right, so it's just Buffalo Trace. It's just 2 to 4 year juice. Right. It really, actually, I think it's worse than regular Buffalo Trace stuff. So
now, who did the barrel pick? A friend of yours or
a club?
Buffalo Trace did that. Exactly. So I have the same thing. Like it's because of their palate and
right. But that's what you're going off on all these things. If you buy any of these quote unquote, barrel picks, this is the honey pot. This was from warehouse C in, Bardstown. You got to trust somebody at some level.
And again, so Matt's thing is marketing, right?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And then
what drives the
Casey, world? Have you seen a dip in prices, or is that just availability, regional issues?
That's more than what I'm seeing is availability, because I'm in an ABC state, right? I'm in a controlled state, but we've had more bottles become available that were once allocated over the last several years. So
is that because of the economy and not people are buying it up? And
it's because we're in a bourbon glut already. They 5 years ago, COVID, you could have started at COVID 2020, started producing massive amounts of juice and putting in barrels. Well, it's now 4 years later. A lot of the bourbon that we drink is just 4 years old. We're starting to see it hit the market now. So if you're looking at, Turkey 101 or whatever, that's always been produced the exact same way. But when you're looking at the products that they would have blended into Knob Creek 9 or Old Forester, 100, whatever, there's so much more 4 to 6 year stuff in the market right now that there is so much more bourbon available, and they've got to put it out there somewhere. They've got to start getting rid of it. So now we're seeing stuff that I couldn't find here in Virginia. I'm now able to walk into an ABC store and there's 12 bottles.
So that's the cost of having this big push from the beginning. Now we have to ramp up. And as the supply or the drinkers kind of wane, or they've moved on to their next thing.
Well, it's such
a ton of it.
It's such a slow market, right? It costs so much to produce bourbon. And it takes so long to produce a barrel of bourbon that when producers are starting to feel, oh, demand is up, let's try to get ahead of it and produce this much. Oh shit, we've just outpaced what we thought, let's produce more. Well, that production takes 6 years before it comes out the other end. So if you take the COVID example, and if they just fucking planted shitloads more corn and didn't get to barrel whatever that corn produced until 2023. I don't know how long that corn to barrel process is. But say it's 23, imagine what we're going to see in 27, 28, 29 when that stuff becomes 4, 5, 6 years old.
Right.
So
Glut.
whatever glut that we're seeing now, which is occurring, is going to continue to compound for the next 3, 5, 10 years. Because they produce so much because it's such a long lag.
And you're talking about the B2C, right? So you're talking that there's a glut out there directly from the manufacturer. Well, that's only going to collapse the secondary market.
It tends to, for sure, except for these, you still have market constraints on these. I don't know a better term than like these halo or shelf, bourbons. Like, I mean, still finding a Pappy Van Winkle 15, 18, 21 is still extremely difficult. Right. Still finding an Old Forester birthday bourbon is impossible, or an Old Fitz decanter bottle, that's still impossible. But prices will come down a little bit, but I'm still never going to see one on the shelf anywhere.
The key is buy it and touch it. Don't put it away. Don't hide it like you're afraid of it. Just drink it.
Well, like you said, you can't even buy some of these bourbons. And so what do you think is happening there? You think people are just buying them all and speculating? And
they'll hold them now. They'll hold them because they bought them at, I would argue
at peak, right?
They're still in peak probably for these, hard to get bottles. We're probably, because that'll lag the rest of the market. So they're going to be underwater, just like we're seeing these Rolex people, right, that are putting up a Submariner for $20,000, and everybody's laughing at them because the rest of the market doesn't hold up to that. We're going to see these other bourbons that are like, oh, we know this is 90% as good as what you have there. Why would I pay $1,500 for that Pappy 12-year when I can drink this whatever for $55?
It's crazy. They go buy a bottle of Old Pappy and they hide it away. They never touch it. And the ironic thing is, for years, I call my dick Old Pappy and it never gets touched. So it's
end on that note.
So,
wow.
So, I mean, what is the irony there? I mean, Old Pappy never gets touched. I don't get it.
That your wife doesn't like bourbon.
I guess not. Yeah. Or my dick. I don't know. I can't figure it out. So.
All right.
I'm just here as a comic relief. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap.
All right. On that note, guys, hit up our website, whiskeywatcheswheels.com. This episode will be go live tonight. You'll get to hear all this phony comic relief.
50th.
Yeah, the 50th. The 50th episode. All right, fellas. Hey, James, you guys are in town this weekend, right? The Meekum? Kevin, James? Maybe?
Change of plans.
Okay, so he will not be. Okay.
Going to Miami, DRT.
What the what? Okay, that's fine. It's all good. No worries. All right. Well, we'll catch you guys later, right?
I will be there.
You'll be here, right? You'll be there.
Yes, I'll be there.
All right, man. All right. Peace out, guys. Later.
Bye-bye.